Jess, let's move to Nebraska a little bit here. So obviously DB's been heading down early out of the show to Lincoln the last couple of days. You guys are going through this process of trying to find a new voice of Nebraska football as over the last couple of weeks here. I mean, obviously it's been going on for a long time, but we're kind of in the last few weeks, it seems, of the process. As you go through this, do you kind of get a sense, and you don't have to give me specifics about people or anything like that, just generally the process, like, have you gotten a sense of how important this role is, not just for what you guys do, which obviously the chemistry and everything is really important, but just to what that figure and person means kind of to the entire state, and how has that sort of impacted your process as you go through this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a big role, and those are big shoes to fill, and so I don't think anybody is shying away from that fact as we're having these kinds of conversations. And what I've appreciated is, we've talked to a lot of people from across the country. There's a lot of interest in this job. I mean, this is a dream job for a for a broadcaster, being the voice of Nebraska. And so there's a lot of interest in it. But what I've really appreciated is, pretty much unsolicited, almost every single person that we talked to brought up Greg and how much they respected Greg, and they understand, the task of stepping into that role. And just, it's not going to be an easy thing for whoever it is, because Greg was here for 17 years and he's the voice of the Huskers, and he was so loved. And so I think people are aware of the situation, but they've been so kind and thoughtful about, just sentiments on Greg, and just, a number of them, a couple of them said, hey, I wish this wasn't the case, that we're having these conversations right now, because we would hope that it was not in this kind of situation. But so I think people understand that what the situation is, and certainly there's a lot of great respect for what Greg did. But yeah, I mean, and it's not just calling football games. You're on a lot of different programming, and you're emceeing events, and it's this is that's another kind of conversation that it has been had. Is this is when you come to Nebraska, it's different. You can think but you don't know till you get here. I mean, I've said that a number of times, just coming from Oklahoma, that I felt like I had a good perception of what it is like here, but you just don't know till you're here. And so I think that's another part of it too, is just making sure that people are aware of just how big this role is, and making sure that we get somebody that can absolutely fulfill all of those needs, and can represent and be that extension of the athletics department, but be that kind of voice of the Huskers that I think the state is looking for.
Jess, there's obviously the pressure of having to be the one that replaces Greg, but there's probably pressure on you and the part of the selection committee and whoever's a part of this process as well, that it's the voice of a generation of Husker fans, because Greg was my generation growing up. Like, he was mine that when I was in elementary school, middle school, high school, college, and even the beginning of my adult life, that's who I listened to on Husker game days. I'm sure Ravi remembers who was
Mine
on
was
him.
Kent.
Yep.
Pavelka.
And so Kent Pavelka, and I remember who my parents would talk about, for them. Is there that level of pressure on you that it's not necessarily just we want to find the big booming voice or that right voice or tenor, but it's also the personality and it's everything else that kind of goes into it, kind of like what you were just saying?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of layers to it, right? And you've got to check a lot of boxes. And so, that's kind of what we've gone into it as, is knowing that there's more than just one hat that you got to wear, and just the magnitude of the role. And so, yeah, I mean, it's, I don't know if I'd call it pressure, because, I mean, again, we've had a lot of great people and from across the country interested in this job that, I think we've got some good candidates so that have put their name in the hat. So I'm excited to see how the process unfolds. And I'm, it's been, I'll be honest, it's been hard. I'm going to get emotional again, but it's kind of the reality. We made it through a football season last year with Greg. So this is the first football season that we actually don't have him. So it's just kind of been a little bit, I think, for all of us, I think we all have kind of, as we go through this, it's just kind of hit you a little bit, the realization that it is going to be different. And so, yeah, there's a lot of layers to it, a lot of emotions. It's been emotional for me. I think it's been emotional for a number of people that have been involved in the process. But, you know, I hope that, and I think we will, you know, get the right guy in here that Husker Nation can fall in love with, just like they have Greg.
Jess, a lot going on this weekend. Obviously, you guys have this interview process you guys have been doing this week as well, but a lot going on this weekend, whether it was the 7-on-7, whether it was the huddle event that was going on as well, but also something I know was flying under the radar a little bit, but we saw some clips out on social media, was the girls' flag football camp as well. What did you get to experience through that as you kind of watched that play out?
Yeah, I actually, because the show was going on during a lot of it, so from 6 to 8, and it was from 4 to 8. So I walked down there and checked it out when I could. Like, we had a couple of breaks and segments, and it was really neat. The turnout was even more than what it was last year, and they had the former or current players down there that were running some of the stations, and just to see how invested they were and making sure that these young girls and young ladies had a great experience and learned and took a lot away. I mean, I said this last night on the show, just kind of taking it in as I walked around down there. Just Coach Will brought this up before the spring game, but just the character of guys that are on this football team. And I mean, I saw Emmett Johnson tackling that circle donut deal, you know, I mean, just how much they pour all into it, you know, and they could just be there going through the motions, but that was not the case. And so there's a number of the big name guys that were there, and just to see it grow. And I think it was just really exciting to see the interest from a lot of young ladies across the state and around this area that are interested in coming and being on the football field and learning about the game. And hopefully it continues to grow. I think it will, though. But, you know, it's been crazy. They've had camps every single day, multiple camps. I've ran into a few of the guys running the camps, and you can tell it's they put a lot of effort into it, and it's a big task to take on. They take a lot of pride in the camps and making sure that they are done top notch, and every single camp that they put on. And so you know, they do such a great job with it, and so not surprising at all that the She's Got Game camp continue to grow, and the turnout was what it was last night.
Jess, on the other front, I mean, so many things happening this past weekend. AJ Ferrari, obviously one of the biggest names to sign with Nebraska wrestling, and that was such huge news. The bigger question for the wrestleheads that are either in our chat or, you know, listening, they are wondering what his fit is with Mark Manning in the program. But I think my question with you is, because you know this team so well, and DB's talked about your relationship with the guys and everything, how does he fit just with the guys that he's going to be competing against day in and day out in that practices, and when they travel? How does he fit? Because he seems to be such a big personality. Does that type of personality fit within the room?
I'm telling you what, this coaching staff, Mark Manning wouldn't bring in somebody that didn't. So I just have a lot of faith in Coach Manning. You want to talk about a guy that's implemented a program that the guys buy into and that love being a part of that program and believe in it and the direction of it. So I just, you know, wholeheartedly believe that it doesn't matter who it is, whether it's AJ Ferrari or whoever the guy might be any given year, whether it's a freshman or a transfer guy, he's not bringing somebody in that wouldn't fit with the culture, wouldn't be able to be a fit in that wrestling room. So, you know, I've said that from the start, you know, but it was huge news. I mean, this is one of the biggest names in wrestling. And, you know, I think we talked about this last night on the show, but when you start talking about wanting to continue to move up the podium and potentially win a national title, you got to have guys that are racking up points at every weight class. And so, you know, I think this is, they've built it to where they're reloading. And even though, you know, you lose Ridge, I think even the guys that the spots that they're filling, they feel really good about the guys that they've been developing. And so there's a lot of excitement around this program. And, you know, Josh Hilkelman, who's our producer, who's been here a long time, you know, we were talking about this, about it seems like there's a lot of excitement and interest in this program. And he said, you know, go back to when Jordan Burroughs was here, it was like a lot of excitement and interest in one guy. But this has been about the most excitement for overall program in a while. So you can feel it. And I think this certainly adds to that excitement with AJ, but yeah, it's gonna be fun to see how it all works out and how he fits in and how it helps him to grow and develop, because that's what Coach Manning is about. Much like this, the messaging you hear from the football program, they're about making sure that the young men leave better than when they came in, that they are making sure that they are ready for the world when they leave there and for whatever comes next. And so I'm excited to see how it all works out for the program. But I know that AJ's flying in tonight. He'll be in Lincoln tonight, and I'm hoping to sit down and chat with him over the next couple of days. So hopefully we'll have that conversation on Sports Nightly coming up here in the next few days.
Well, I don't want to give too many spoilers, but maybe a little teaser here. What's one of the things you're most interested in asking AJ about?
I just think, what was it about Nebraska that I know he's been here before, but what about Nebraska drew him here, and why he felt like he could fit, I think that's the question that, you guys just asked it to me. I've been asked it several times over the last few days, just what kind of fit it will be. So I always like to ask that question to all the athletes, what is it about Nebraska that it was the right fit for you? So I think just hearing that and why, he wanted to come here and be a part of what's going on here at Nebraska.
Jess, before we let you go here, I do find it fascinating. You mentioned Mark Manning and kind of the benefit of the doubt that he gets when bringing people on and assuming that this wouldn't have happened unless it was going to be a good fit. Have you seen, as you've watched him over the last few years, have you seen him kind of adapt in certain ways? Because he seemed like the program was kind of at a certain level over the last few years, and then we saw it elevate this past year, and now it looks like they're trying to go to another level. Have you seen some changes from Coach Manning as well while still staying true to his culture?
I think he's constantly trying to make sure that he's improving. But Mark Manning, one of my first assignments when I was here was the Big Red Blitz, and we were flying all across Nebraska, and Coach Manning was in the party that flying out when I was there. So he's one of the first people I met, and just genuine, nice, one of the nicest human beings. I think if there could be a mayor, there are a lot of coaches that could be the mayor of Nebraska, but I think Mark Manning is certainly at the top of that list. He's so supportive. He's a lot of times when you hear coaches talk about, just the camaraderie between the coaching staff, they'll talk about Mark Manning's one of the first to text people when whatever it is that they might be going through, whether it's a big win or a tough loss. He is so supportive. That's how he is, and I think that's who he has been to his core. I think he's been genuine to himself, and while maybe he's changed his coaching philosophies, I think he's stayed true to who he is, and I think that's why people buy into it and want to be around him and want to be in that program. And he's true to himself. He is the most genuine, kind-hearted, wants the best for his people. As much, if not more so than anybody I've ever worked with in terms of coaching. And so I think more than anything, he's genuine. And I think we're hearing that kind of messaging with the football program too. You guys had Trey Taylor on yesterday about how honest and real Coach Rule is. I think a lot of it is similar with Coach Manning. He is who he is, and he doesn't, make apologies about it. I think guys are drawn to that and want to be a part of that.
That's Jessica Coody, Husker Sports Network. Jess, I do hope you enjoy the game tonight. I did see it looked like you got to go to a game in Oklahoma City. Is that right?
I was at the closeout game 5. Yeah, it was electric. It was awesome. So I was also, the last time I went to a Thunder game, Russell Westbrook broke the triple-double record. So good things happen when I'm in Oklahoma. Maybe I got to find a way to get down there for the finals series.
I was going to say, you may have to make another trip depending on how these couple games in Indiana go. You may have to give them the good juju.
Yeah. Hey, listen, before I let you guys let me go, DB was talking some trash about bunnies earlier. He also, I heard him talking about I got a couple messages, people that were listening in that saying that he's talking trash. He didn't even have the story right. This current dog does not kill bunnies. It was my last dog. It was a Cocker Spaniel that, and I even had neighbors that thanked me because the bunnies were getting, they're rabbits. They're not bunnies, but rabbits that were getting into the garden. This one just likes to chase bunnies. So she just likes to run after them, but he has not caught one. So
Okay. We're not one for
and
dog
then the
slander on
second
this
thing-
show.
The second thing, I did not call him a baby. I called him a child when he was being a little bit pouty on the Husker games. And I was walking to my office. I ran into Ridge. I was like, that's the guy that's going to cheer DB up. And his face lit up like a child when Ridge walked into the studio to say hi to him. So
I was going to
I
say,
had to clear up those two things
Okay, good.
from earlier.
to be fair, you're 100% right. Like, you knew exactly what medicine DB needed to turn his mood around. So honestly, that's impressive.
Robbie, once you know DB, you know how to get him right. Even yesterday, I was like, I know he can go to the right stadium, but can he go to the right place at the stadium? So I had to make sure he knew where to go when he was coming here yesterday. So
Yeah, the no DB left behind program, right? We're trying to make sure he gets to the right stadiums, he's getting to the right press boxes, all that good stuff.
I like his chances better in Lincoln than I do Minnesota. we'll just put it that way.
Exactly, or anywhere, any other town. There's a reason why I had to take over the Uber driving in the morning.
Honestly, it's for the best. Jess, thank you so much for joining us. I know you got to get going to continue those interviews. We appreciate your time here. We'll talk again soon. Okay.
All right. Have a great day, guys. Thanks for having me on.
That's Jessica Coody, Husker Sports Radio Network. Great stuff from Jess as always. No dog slander here on the show.
No dog slander.
Listen,
I can't imagine what her and Damon have to go through in those interviews and everything just to hear.
Yeah.
And obviously, people interviewing for the job, like she said, I mean, they want to be respectful, but they also
they want the job.
They want the job.
Yeah,
It's one of the premier jobs, like in
it's a great job.
Collegiate athletics in this version of media, broadcasting, all that sort of stuff too. I mean, and like I guess if you look at it from the opposite side, like if you're someone that is established in broadcasting and you've been trying to work your way up, you're like maybe at a different type of school or you're a different type of broadcaster and you see that the Husker job is open, you probably do know of Greg Sharpe as well. So, I mean, it's just, I can't imagine just hearing that like over and over again, but then it's part of that process.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, I felt bad that we were making her a little emotional there, but I did wonder how difficult this was for them as they, there's certain times when you lose somebody where it feels more real kind of along the way. I have to imagine this is one of the times that it feels the most real that Greg's actually gone because they're trying to find someone to replace him, that has to be incredibly challenging for them as they worked obviously really, really closely with Greg and just everything about him. He was, this just lovely human being that you work with him for any amount of time at all. And it's, he has an impact on your life. So it is, I had been wondering about that, where it's like, this has to be one of those times where it really hits you that he's gone.
Yeah, right.
And that's got to be just really hard.
And who knows how long this process has been going. I mean, it's probably been going on for some time.
Yeah,
but
I imagine months.
But it is one of those where it's just like, you never want to start this process, right? Like
but you have to at
football
some point.
Season does come around, and you do have to find that and everything. So I just can't imagine. Like my heart goes out to them, but
for sure.
And also whoever does get picked, candidate that they have,
it's a lot of pressure.
Good luck.
And
very much. And I mean that sincerely. Like I know I'm a pot stirrer, as I've been told, but like sincerely, like very much good luck.
Slightly sarcastic.
A little bit, but it is one of those that.
Oh, it's a huge job to fill.
Yeah.
And not just because of how good he was at the actual job, which he was, but also just because of A, how we felt about him, and then B, obviously how his time ended, both as a human being and as the broadcaster here. It is so emotional and so it's going to be really, really difficult. I remember under very different circumstances when Kent Pavelka got replaced on football with, I believe his name was Warren Swain. He was a guy from West Virginia, and people are like, oh, this guy's not even from here and whatever, and this big thing, and you're coming off of national titles. And I mean, I was upset. I remember I still hear, I can't watch a Tommy Frazier highlight without hearing Kent in my ear go, touchdown, 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 Tommy Frazier. And do it the whole thing, right? And so, and that's leaving under much less dramatic circumstances, or not having the job under much less dramatic circumstances, obviously, than we've got here with Greg. And so I do think people are going to do their best to give the next guy a chance, but it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
It's going to be really challenging.
And it will be, it's one of those things too, that like I mean, how many times was Greg Sharpe in your car? How many times was Greg, at home with you? How many times were you scrolling through something on your phone over the past decade of the new social media booms and all that other stuff where we got to hear Greg's call? If you were at the stadium, you didn't get to listen, but then you heard it later.
Yeah.
And then, of course, like they do a great job on Sports Nightly talking and including all of these different highlights and all that sort of stuff too. So you got to hear it constantly. I mean, his voice was constantly around, and then
honestly, for me, the big one was baseball this year.
Yeah. 100%.
I consume, because of how weird Big Ten broadcasting schedules are with TV, and a lot of times I like listening to baseball like on the radio calls. Baseball's a great radio sport.
It's a great throw up like in your kitchen or something and do a lot of other stuff, and you can pay attention. You're just like, yep, I like that.
I like to mow while I'm listening to baseball games.
Same.
Like it's really easy. It keeps my mind off of what I'm doing, and you can still pay attention to what's going on. So I can't tell you how many times I'm listening to Greg Sharpe just while I'm mowing my lawn doing baseball games. And so like that's the one to me where it was kind of challenging this year. Like I had a hard time listening to some of the broadcasts because it's just like feels like Greg should be there with
and not
me.
because of the quality of the broadcast.
Ben
because
and Nick
were
great.
Yeah,
like they're terrific. I love Benny Mac. I don't know Nick as well just because we haven't talked to him as much. Although our paths have crossed for a long time. He ironically was an assistant baseball coach at Miller North when I was there. Our paths have crossed for a long time, but I feel like I know Benny Mac better just because we've talked to him a lot.
It's like that friend or family member that you can't call for like whatever reason, right?
Yeah.
I know. I was talking to I think I was talking to like my parents about it, and I remember like when Greg passed away, I was trying to like kind of explain all this because Greg was great to me and like small term stuff. I knew him loosely, but I was on the younger side. And of course, when you're in Nebraska and you want to be like a sports broadcaster, you email Greg Sharpe and you're like, hey, can you listen to this? Like, what do you think? And there's no reason he needed to listen to like my rinky dink stuff, but he did. And he would always like send critiques back and he would always do that. And he, I had like interviewed for a position that had been open like last year or a year and a half ago at the Husker Radio Network. When I got to meet Jess, I got to meet Greg and everything. And he was like, oh, I do remember. I remember you like sending me a bunch of emails. And I was like, I'm so sorry I bothered you with that. But it was so weird. Like when he had passed away, I was like telling my mom about it. And I was like, it is odd because it feels like I can't, like you can't talk to him anymore. But yet he was the one always talking to us. And so it's just that weird, like, just that odd feeling in your gut where you just don't know, like you don't know how to express it. Yeah.
Something's just missing. Right.
Yeah.
And that is really that's going to be, I think, the hardest part for a lot of people. You could hear it in Jess's voice as she talked about going through this upcoming football season without Greg. Like you can tell it's going to be really challenging for people. And I do appreciate how diligently they're kind of working through this. And I'm sure they'll pick a great candidate, and I'm sure we'll end up loving him. But it's going to be a hard first year without him.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
And it'll be interesting to see the role that whoever it is, whatever the role is, whether they fill in, for the network, all that kind of stuff. And when they start, are they going to start, Big Ten media days? How much time will they have to move if it's somebody from somewhere else in the nation? So it'll be an interesting process to see as we go over the next month.
For sure.